Hello and welcome back to the No Dig Norfolk Gardener, and today we are going to be planting our garlic 3 different ways. Now there are 2 types of garlic. You have the hardneck and the softneck. With the hardneck you will get a hard flower spike. They are usually more hardier to grow in the ground, so better suited for colder climates. So places further north where we are in the UK. They also tend to be stronger in flavour. Downside is they don't store quite as well. And then there is the softneck garlic. Now the softneck garlic will not send up a flower spike. There are generally more cloves, and of course it is a bit milder than the hardnecks. But the real advantage to softneck is that it stores for a very long time. Now, the first thing we need to do is to get things prepped, ready to plant the garlic. Now I've dibbed the holes, as you saw, and we are actually going to be planting softneck varieties. That's what myself and Mrs. W grow, simply because they do store really well. And we like the flavour of garlic, but we don't necessarily need it to be really pungent. The choice is yours. We're going to be growing this year 2 new varieties. So in this first row here it will be a variety called Solent White. We've grown that for 2 or 3 seasons now. We find it to be really good. It grows well in our soil and produces nice large bulbs. Then we're going to be trying 2 new ones, which is Picardy and Mersey White, because we do like to try new things and just see whether that flavour is any different. Otherwise we just keep growing the same things all of the time. So as an insurance policy, we continue to grow the Solent White because we know we like that. But let's just see what another couple of varieties actually do taste like. Now, let's start with the first row. The first thing you need to do is to break these bulbs up. Now, you can see that they've got a sort of papery skin on them. You don't need to take that off. You will see people that will advise you take them off. But really, there is no need to. What I always do is to select the largest bulbs first to plant those, because I always think that they will give you the largest garlic plants. Now, garlic needs to be planted within the rows, spaced at 6 inches, and then between each row 12 inches. Now potentially you can have those rows a little less. However, if you need to weed through here, it is handy to have the extra space for your foot to be able to stand there while you're weeding, because most of the weeding you're going to be doing will be hand weeding, and unless your hoeing technique is absolutely brilliant, you can easily damage the base of these plants while they're in the ground. As for depth wise, well, the garlic ideally wants to be planted about 1.5 inches deeper than the top of the clove. So unlike onions sets and shallot sets, you don't leave the top pointing out. Now it's important just to point out, if you are new to gardening, this is called the base plate. and this pointy end that you can see at the top, that's where the green leaf is going to come out. So don't plant them that way, plant them that way. Now I know it seems a really obvious thing to say, but you will get some as you break them off, and it won't be quite so obvious, but always look for that hard bit on the end, and that's the bit that goes downwards. And all we need to do is to pop this into the holes. That is all the cloves set into the ground, and all we need to do now is just cover them over. And just in case you're wondering, of course, with us being no dig, what I have done is put about 1 inch of compost on top to feed the soil, which will in turn feed our vegetables. So why garlic 3 ways? Well, this season we're going to be planting our garlic outdoors. We're also going to be planting it indoors, but also we're going to be planting it into tubs. The principal reason for trying it different ways is that normally we would grow our garlic out here in the vegetable beds, but rust has become more prominent over the last few years, and the garlic bulbs seem to have got a bit smaller as a result, because it's not just a little bit of rust. In some cases, the whole plant has become rusted. And from what I've read, from what I've seen, people that have managed to grow their garlic undercover, the rust seems to be less. We shall find out next year. Yesterday, myself and Mrs. W were in here and we took everything out of the greenhouse. So the remaining tomato plants came out, the aubergines and the peppers that were in here. And then we gave the whole greenhouse a good clean. It's been washed inside and out. That's always a good idea to do whenever you change the season. So if you're growing crops in the summer and then putting different crops in the winter, you want to do it then. But if you're going to leave your greenhouse with nothing in it over winter, you have got the winter period and probably up to about February time where you can then clean it then. Myself and Mrs. W, regardless whether we have grown anything in here or not, we always wash the greenhouse during autumn anyway. And then finally we put some compost on top to feed the soil. Now if you're wondering why all of these plant labels are here, it's our way of denoting where the other plants are going to go, because they're not going to go in here until next May. And with this being our first time of actually planting something else in the greenhouse to grow over winter, this is just our way of working it all out. So these markers at the back are where the tomatoes would be planted, and the markers at the front are where the pepper plants would go. So that means that we've dibbed a row through the middle where we are going to plant our garlic in this greenhouse. Now I'm assuming that this is going to come ready before the garlic that we have planted outside. It would seem to make sense as it's been grown under cover. I don't know that to be true. I won't know that until next year, obviously. But if you've overwintered your garlic under cover, then please leave us some comments in the comments box down below and let us know, does it come a little bit earlier? But even if it doesn't come a little earlier, garlic, certainly here the way I'm planting it, outside it's normally ready by the end of June, first week in July. We don't tend to plant our tomatoes and peppers in here until at least getting towards the end of May, when there is no longer any danger of frost. So the tomato plants are only going to be so high. Pepper plants will be a bit higher because, as you know, we're overwintering them. But they're not going to be in here much longer after the tomatoes and peppers are planted in here. So in here we're just going to plant 5 of each variety, and then over in the polytunnel we shall plant 5 of each variety. See where they grow best, glasshouse or polytunnel. So we shall start with the Solent White, and do exactly the same as we did outside. And we shall do exactly the same in this polytunnel as we did in the greenhouse. Now, garlic can also be grown in tubs. So if you don't have a garden, if you're not lucky enough to have a garden like ourselves, but have a patio or a balcony, as long as it's in a sunny position, they can grow quite well in pots. Now this pot is 7 inches in diameter and it's a good 9 to 10 inches deep. With something of this diameter you could plant up to 3 bulbs, and you would need a pot that's a minimum of 6 inches in depth so that the roots have got somewhere to go. So as I said, you can plant 3 into your buckets. Like so. Pop its label in. Mersley White. So that's our garlic planted in 3 different ways. Now, the pots that you just saw us plant up with garlic, because they're in pots, they'll clearly need watering more often than the plants that are in the ground. But they don't want to be sitting in water. They really don't want to be soaking wet. And we are also going to pop ours into the polytunnel over winter, and then we shall bring them out next spring. But that's not something that you have to do. They're quite happy to stand outside on your patio or on your balcony, just the same way as if you were growing your garlic outdoors. Garlic is very hardy, and in truth garlic really does need a really cold period during its life cycle in order that that bulb can split into all the cloves that you normally associate with a garlic bulb. If you've ever grown garlic, or you ever grow garlic and you only get the single bulb, it will be because it hasn't gone to a cold enough temperature when you plant it. And it's one of the good things about planting your garlic in the autumn, because it's likely to go through that cold period, because we've still got the rest of autumn and winter to go through. Whereas if you plant it in the spring, because garlic can be planted any time from September right up to March of the following year. If you don't get that cold snap after March, there's more of a danger that those bulbs won't divide into cloves. Now, I do hope you found this video useful and you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. That's always good. And please do leave your comments down below. It only leaves me to say, we shall see you next time.